Transmitter device activated. Coordinates set for Earth 2.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Earth 2 podcast, the award-winning Earth 2 podcast, where you join us on a weekly exploration of the DC Comics multiverse and the legacy of their Golden Age characters to the Silver and the Bronze Ages of comics. I'm Peter Watson.
I'm Chuck Lordens.
I'm Kaylee Blair.
And I'm David Steele. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us at the award-winning Earth 2 podcast. Smiles to camera.
Doesn't get old, does it?
Turns to other camera and smiles. Anyway, we are still in 1976, clinging on by the skin of our teeth, scruff of the neck, seat of our pants, that sort of thing. And this week, it's been quite a gap, but we are finally returning to the pages of the Secret Society of Supervillains.
Yay!
Now, if you remember issue 5, there was that cataclysmic explosion where Manhunter sacrificed himself to take out Darkseid, and the villains were scattered, and Captain Comet and Hawkman had a tussle with Sinestro, etc., etc. And it's been a bit of a gap, and as Peter has said a couple of times recently, we're working our way through in a kind of loose chronological order, everything that's going on at the moment, with 3 ongoing books and soon to be a 4th that all fall into a remit, and stuff like Justice League having quite a lot of stories going on at the moment that we need to cover. It's going to be a bit all over the place, but we are getting there, so don't you worry, we know what we're doing.
Honest.
So, issue 6 of Secret Society, published on the 14th of December 1976. Peter will tell us about the cover.
In the top left corner, we have a lovely light blue DC bullet.
Yes, update your spreadsheet, Kenny.
Captain Comet and Black Canary versus the Secret Society of Supervillains. 30 cents, number 6, April, production code 30646, approved, of course, by the Comics Code Authority. Now, this is a bizarre yet striking cover. In the background, there are 2 men. They seem to be partially frozen. They seem to be tied to, it looks like a giant metronome, really, for lack of a better expression.
Yes, it really is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And guarding this metronome are Captain Cold and Captain Boomerang. Captain Cold is firing his cold gun at Black Canary, who's obviously coming in to try and rescue these men. In the foreground, we have Captain Comet, and he's grabbing a cutlass off of another captain, a new captain we haven't seen before. This is Captain Stingaree, who is wearing traditional kind of pirate garb. He's a bald-headed chap with an eye patch over his left eye, with a big black moustache and beard. Yep, he is every possible pirate cliche you can imagine.
Does he have a wooden leg?
He's nearly every pirate cliche you can imagine.
Does he have really bad teeth and skin from the lack of fresh vegetables in his diet?
It depends who's drawing him.
We'll see.
There's a caption that says, "What is the sinister scheme of the terrifying trio? Captain Cold, Captain Boomerang, and Captain Stingaree?" And Captain Boomerang is pointing at the 2 chaps in the metronome and shouting at Captain Comet, and he's saying,
"You're too late, Comet! Our hostages are frozen to death!"
And the caption at the bottom says, "Clash after chilling clash in Captain's Cataclysmic."
And yes, Black Canary on the cover there, which, as you've probably noticed, Chuck and Kelly have joined us this week. Welcome back, folks. We should jump straight in. Into the first page, we have a Secret Society of Supervillains logo at the top. And over a shot of some people in kind of look like early Cybermen outfits.
Yeah.
Some captions read,
"It's T-minus 5 minutes in the countdown of the strangest space flight in history. Manning the space boomerang with its creator, Captain Boomerang, are Captain Stingaree and Captain Cold."
Yeah, so here we see that the people in the early Cybermen outfits are Captain Boomerang, Captain Cold, and this Captain Stingaree fellow. So this is when Peter will now tell us who he is.
Captain Stingaree is a very minor Batman villain. He's had a couple of appearances, actually fairly close to the publication of this issue. But he's by no means an A-lister.
Yeah, it was Detective Comics he was in, wasn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
I think we established that the stories were all written by the same fellow who wrote this one, and he's probably trying to big up his own creation as a major player.
I would think so.
So, the captioning continues.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Blast off.
And we see an enormous, huge boomerang hurtling into the night sky over a moody, atmospherically rendered city. Now, it looks like a giant boomerang in shape, but there's clearly a sort of circular cockpit on top of it. It looks like a bubble that's just kind of bounced on the sides and a couple of other details. And as it goes flying, the captioning returns.
Thus is launched the career of a new team of supervillains. 3 of the most dangerous costumed criminals ever. Captain's Cataclysmic.
Yeah, was this a backdoor pilot to give these 3 guys their own ongoing, team book?
May well have been.
I have to say, Captain's Cataclysmic is up there with Titans 3 as one of the worst suggestions for a team name I've ever heard. I'm looking at you, Roy Thomas.
Indeed.
And then we get the captions for the story written on the side of one of the aforementioned buildings in this aforementioned city.
Bob Rozakis, writer. Rich Buckler and Bob Layton, artists. Milton Snappin, letterer. Jerry Serp, colourist. Jack Harris, story editor.
Rich Buckler and Bob Layton. What an amazing combination. There's some great panels in this story. I look forward to us going further. So the next 3 panels at the top of the next page, they'll flow into one another as we see the giant space boomerang flying through space and connecting with a circular orbiting space station satellite type situation.
Space. The final frontier. And if it follows the path of previous frontiers, fly-in hamburger stands will soon surround the world's first permanent space station. For months, Spacelab has remained alone in silent orbit. Till now, when crime invades the starry wilderness.
Gosh, great shot, as I say, of the space boomerang. I mean, how did he finance this? That's what I want to know. It was the monitor, obviously. Great shot of the space boomerang docking with the space station. Another caption reads as we move inside.
The last thing Captain James Carone and his 3-man crew expected was company.
Yes, we see 3 astronauts inside, one blonde-haired chap, a guy with sort of orangey red hair, a very dark-haired fellow, all looking over as a hatch opens, and still wearing their Cyberman-type outfits, Captains Cold, Stingaree and Boomerang enter. Now, this is when it's clear that the dialogue is presumably Bob Rozakis doesn't really know how English people speak, because Captain Stingaree says,
"Greetings, blokes. You're being space-jacked."
The blonde astronaut is appalled to see this interruption, this invasion. He cries,
"What? How did you?"
But his questions are not the concern of one of his colleagues, who leaps into action saying,
"Ask questions after we take them prisoner."
As Captain Stingaree steps forward, brandishing his cutlass, he says,
"That's much more easily said than done."
And he uses his elbow to strike the blonde astronaut in the face. Now we see Captain Boomerang taking out one of the other astronauts with a boomerang, surprise, surprise, and then off camera, Captain Cold has fired his gun, some shocking storytelling. We see his pink burst of energy striking the dark-haired astronaut, who is trapped in a block of ice and can only moan, "Freezing me."
Before you write to tell us we can't count, let us assure you that there is one more astronaut, and we'll check on him after we switch to a privately owned space station in orbit 22,300 miles above the Earth, the Justice League Satellites. On monitor duty is Hawkman. Sharing his vigil is a newfound friend, late of the Secret Society of Supervillains, Captain Comet.
Yes, Captain Comet with Hawkman. Captain Comet looks like he's got a drawing of a bum on his chest.
True.
Just the way his pectoralis muscles are sort of forming underneath that. That's quite appalling. I needed somewhere to park my bike. So, we zoom in. The 2 chaps are chatting with Comet, finishing a sentence as he says,
"With all the Society members scattered after Darkseid was killed, I figure this is the best place to get a line on their whereabouts."
An asterisk takes us to a caption which reads,
"Manhunter blasted himself and the Lord of Apocalypse into oblivion last issue," so says Jack C. Harris.
Yes, that's right. Darkseid was killed. Darkseid is dead.
Never to be seen again.
Hawkman replies,
"I don't know if it's anyone you're after, but Spacelab has just been invaded by 3 supervillains."
Now we cut to outside the JLA satellite as Captain Comet flies off, thinking,
"With my mental powers, I can pull an air bubble along and travel in space without a suit, and move as fast as the speedster called the Flash." Instants later, miles away...
Yes, Captain Comet arrives at Spacelab, and he spots, docked onto one side of the vehicle,
a giant boomerang. Looks like I've located at least one of my former compatriots. And inside...
Yes, we see the 3 astronauts who we already met, all now frozen from the waist downwards by Captain Cold, and Captain Stingaree arriving back at the room they're all in with the other astronaut, and throwing him down to the ground, he says,
"Ahoy, me hearties! I found this scurvy lad sending an SOS.
And Captain Cold purrs, "Ha ha! Maybe he's expecting the Coast Guard to rescue him." And then there is a huge
Quam!
sound effect, which of course is Borders dialect in our country for know what I mean, as Captain Comet flies in through a window by the looks of things, speeds towards the three villains and says,
"Not the Coast Guard, Captain Cold, but a rescue just the same. Who in seven seas are you?"
says Captain Stingaree, as in the next panel, Captain Cold fires his gun and says by way of reply, "That is our old buddy Captain Comet, who I'll put on ice." And he attempts to trap Captain Comet in a block of ice, but of course Captain Comet breaks out of it, saying,
"Sorry, Cold. I'm stronger than your overgrown ice cube, and you're the one who's out cold."
And with a
"Suck!"
he punches poor Lenny on the jaw, sending him flying. Oh, we pass a full-page Twinkies advert featuring Aquaman. Look forward to Peter doing that in their upcoming Christmas special. Over the page, we see Captain Boomerang, surprisingly, throwing a boomerang towards Captain Comet, who says,
"Sorry, Captain. It's gotta hit me first."
And we can see that he's radiating some little wave of force out from his brain, which is making the boomerang fall to the ground. Boomerang himself is astonished and cries, "How'd he do that?" As Stingaree pulls his cutlass up to the throat of one of the astronauts and replies,
"Who cares? We're outclassed, Boomerang, and we need a ticket out of here. This one. One step, Captain, and NASA will have one less astronaut. Wake up, Cold, and let's sail out of here."
Yes, and we see Boomerang helping Captain Cold to his feet as Captain Comet does a sort of let's calm the heck down guy sort of gesture, as I'm doing now for the benefit of our YouTube viewers. And as Captain Boomerang and Captain Cold take the astronaut whose hair has changed colour in this panel towards their exit hatch, Stingaree has a parting repast.
"This battle ends in a draw, Captain. You've rescued the space lab, but we've got our commander. Till next time, smooth sailing."
The hatch closes behind them, and Captain Comet looks very unhappy.
It is an enraged Captain Comet who frees the other astronauts from their ice prisons, for he is fully aware that he has failed.
Yes, we see him zapping the ice and the other astronauts getting to their feet. There's a slow dissolve.
Some hours later,
Captain Comet flying back down to Earth. See him dropping past a couple of buildings as he prepares to alight on the pavement. He is thinking.
Green Lantern was right. I do need the help of the Justice Leaguers to face the supervillains.
An asterisk takes us to a caption which reads,
GL said so last issue, or indeed in a previous episode of our podcast.
Yes, quite a while ago, I think. Have we done Secret Society this year, or was it all last year? I can't remember. I think it was last year. Yeah. Oh my goodness, it has been a long time. Captain Comet is surrounded by a golden glow as he shifts from his superhero uniform into some civvies of a green t-shirt and blue bell-bottoms as his thoughts continue.
Couldn't even face Hawkman. Had to radio report to him. One thing's for sure, I need a re-education about Earth. And one way to start is to change into a man of 1976. This outfit seems to be more acceptable than the 1950s suit I wore last time out.
And an asterisk takes us to another caption.
Secret Society Supervillains Issue 2, or indeed a previous episode of this podcast.
How can we cope without these little asterisks and footnotes? I'm finding them very invasive. You're used to them in Marvel Comics, but we don't need them here. Anyway, Adam Blake, for it's he, Captain Comet and his civvies, is walking along now, walking along the pavement, and he's looking around and he thinks,
some things haven't changed. That woman appears to need assistance crossing the street. Assistance I can provide.
And he steps forward to an elderly black lady who's paused at the pavement, and he says,
"Allow me, madam."
And she looks appalled. She turns around at him and yells, "Get away from me, you pervert!" First use of the word pervert on the Earth 2 podcast. "I won't let you mug me!" And with a whack, she brings her handbag down on his face by the looks of things.
What? Ow!
And as he walks away in the first panel of the next page, the elderly lady yells after him, "And if I ever see you near me again, I'll call a cop!" And poor Adam looks very nonplussed. And he walks off and he's spotted by a very attractive-looking, dark-haired young woman wearing a sort of red halter neck top, red shorts, I think it's red shorts. She's standing, leaning against a post at the bottom of a flight of stairs. You can take a drink, listeners, because there's a rubbish bin standing beside her. And she notes all that's going on and she says to Adam, "Don't get shook up, handsome. She's not your type anyway." She leans forward and takes his arm, saying, "I, on the other hand, am." Adam exclaims,
"Huh?"
And she starts walking off, taking his hand. She says, "What's the matter, good looking? Never been picked up before?"
Picked up?
And then we see her leading him up a flight of stairs into an apartment building. And she says, "The handle's Debbie. What did your mother name you?"
Blake, Adam Blake.
"Well, Adam, how's about coming up to my place for some coffee and a bite of an apple.
And here's where we play the sax solo.
For 3 minutes.
Speak for yourself.
Gosh, how racy. There's a quick, slow dissolve.
And while Adam Blake has lunch, let's switch to the Pacific Ocean and the world's largest passenger ship, the SS Sunset, as it continues its world tour. The passengers on this voyage are the rich, and overwhelming rich, and they like to show it.
Yes, and we see a group of very well-to-do people in the dining room, ballroom, or whatever you want to call it, of the SS Sunset. And then the captioning returns.
In olden days, a ship like this would be a prime target for pirates. And from the look of it, things haven't changed.
And we see a member of the crew waving to a friend to draw their attention to the fact there's an old-style sailing ship galleon off the bow, and it appears to fire a cannonball at them with a colossal boom. And then we cut to the deck of this pirate ship, if that's what it is, and we see Captain Boomerang, Captain Stingaree, and Captain Cold. Captain Stingaree yells towards the sunset.
Ahoy there! Stand by for boarding!
And Captain Cold is firing his weapon at the waves in front of the boat and forming a huge amount of ice, which is pulling it up as he says, a bit of ice will keep them from trying to get away. And then Boomerang hurls, guess what? Guess what he hurls, listeners? Yes, he hurls a boomerang with a rope attached. As they draw aside the sunset, they start climbing up the rope onto the ship, with Boomer saying, and I'll head the boarding party. And Captain Cold, standing behind Boomer, says, you can be a physical fitness bug if you want, Boomy. Stingaree and I'll walk up my icy gangplank. And he uses his gun to create, indeed, a gangplank for them to walk across safely onto the sunset. They must have made their way inside the ship now, because we see Stingaree and Cold hassling some of the punters, with Stingaree saying, all right, you landlubbers, let's have all your gold doubloons and pieces of eights. The fantastic Doctor Who podcast that focuses on the 8th Doctor adventures, hosted by Kenny Smith, friend of the podcast. Yes, and bringing up the rear, Captain Cold says, I've got to hand it to you, Captain. You've certainly made our busting you out of jail worthwhile. As an asterisk takes us to a caption that reads, the Batman captured Captain Stingaree in Detective issue 462, not covered in a previous episode of this podcast. No. But we might stick the covers of his earlier appearances on the socials this week, because there's not a lot of bonus material going on for this episode. We progress. There is another caption. And in the captain's quarters, the captain has a member of his staff running in to him who's saying, Captain Nolan, we're being boarded by pirates. Pirates? Exclaims the captain. Seconds later, on deck. Yes, we see Captain Cold and Stingaree with the captain of the ship coming up behind them, Captain Nolan, with a pistol, and he cries, you men, I'm the captain of this ship, and I demand you give yourselves up! And while he's been saying this, Captain Cold has fired at the floor in front of him, creating a slippery patch of ice, which Captain Nolan has slid all the way down with a whoosh onto a ramp. Of course, the ramp leading back to Stingaree's vessel. And he hits the ground, knocking himself unconscious, as Captain Stingaree observes. Perfect, Cold. He slid down your ice ramp to our ship. And then in the next panel, we see Captain Boomerang, Captain Cold, and Captain Stingaree with their bags of loot running back onto Stingaree's vessel, with Stingaree's backside facing the camera and saying, we've got what we came for. Let's lamb out of here. And then we have another slow dissolve as we turn the page, and another caption. By now, you must be wondering about the other members of the Secret Society. So let's check in on the Wizard and Funky Flashman in the Sinister Citadel. There is a nice external shot of the Citadel, which we've not seen for a while as the crow flies, and we hear, via a jaggedy speech bubble, a voice over the television which is saying, and the latest report from the Sunset is that the 3 supervillains have escaped with $1 million in cash and jewellery, and ship's captain, Timothy Nolan. And then we cut inside, and we see sat beside the pool, at the top of the Citadel, the Wizard and Funky Flashman. Funky Flashman has a glass of something tasty in his hand. He has it raised and he's saying, the flamboyant fools. Their illegal actions are garnishing them tremendous tons of poor PR. Wizard, my masterful magic maker, it's just this type of awesome incident that I'm anxious to avoid. If we are to sell the Secret Society to the buying public, we must avoid trial by the mass media. Wizard says in reply, you've got me sold, Funky, as long as I get to run the operation. Allow me to magically freshen your drink. Yes, we see some nice little sparkles floating around the top of the glass. That's lovely. A smiling Funky says in the next panel, of course, my fine friend. Funky Flashman never forgets his allies.
and you'll be in this operation from its awesome initiation to its fateful finale. Now, if you don't mind, let's view this gridiron grandeur.
And he leans down in front of the television and presses a button, flicking a switch, presumably to change the channel.
And across the country in Star City, someone else has the same idea.
Yes, we see a green-gloved hand flicking a switch on a telly with a nice
click.
And a familiar voice says,
Listen, I want to watch the football all-star game, not go on a wild goose chase.
And the camera pulls out to show that it is none other than Green Arrow Oliver Queen. There's a football game, an American football game as we might say, on the television behind him.
For the unaware, Captain Comet is visiting Ollie, Green Arrow, Queen, and Dinah, Black Canary, Lance.
Dinah looks astonishing in a yellow mini dress, the blue belt, blue boots, in her civvies, so she's not wearing her canary wig. Sat on the couch. Green Arrow is in full costume, Captain Comet in full costume, and Green Arrow continues, saying,
And all for some super villains you think are here.
And the long-suffering Dinah says,
Ollie, give the guy a chance.
While I battled him in space, I caught a flash of Captain Cold's thoughts. A mental picture of the Star City Bridge, so I'm sure something here is their next target.
This, of course, is Captain Comet explaining why he's visiting. This is interspersed with a shot of the Star City Bridge, and as he continues to explain, we see that Dinah is taking off her devastating yellow mini dress and has her full Black Canary costume on underneath. The magic fishnets must appear from nowhere. Green Arrow isn't interested in what Captain Comet is saying.
Look, I told you before, I ain't playing nursemaid to a has-been superhero. You want to run around after these guys, go ahead. I'm sticking here.
And as Canary finishes changing into her uniform by putting on her blonde wig, she says,
You do that, Ollie Queen. Green Arrow can sit on his duff, but Black Canary is going to help Captain Comet.
And Canary and Captain Comet take their leave, Captain Comet looking back over his shoulder at a very aggrieved-looking Green Arrow, whose own thoughts are interrupted as a voice from the television says,
We interrupt this broadcast for a news bulletin.
Sprizz.
And Green Arrow rolls his eyes and says,
Dang it! First my lady walks out on me, now my TV goes on the fritz. This just ain't my day.
And he rubs the back of his head, and indeed we see smoke coming out of his television. Goodness me, what's going on there? Get Radio Rentals on the phone immediately, Ollie. Over the page, a caption reads,
Too bad your television's on the blink, Ollie, or you would have seen what's going on at Star Stadium. Something will show you readers on an instant replay. The quarterback of the Eastern Division All-Stars, Jeff Peppard, let fly a long pass, which was intercepted by a boomerang.
Yes, we see the ball being thrown, presumably, I don't know. As I've said many times, listeners, everything I know about American sports that's not ice hockey, I know from episodes of Quantum Leap. And there's a couple of Quantum Leap episodes about football, I seem to remember. But anyway, we see the ball being thrown and being punctured by a boomerang, which then leads it to Captain Stingaree, Captain Cold, and Captain Boomerang. With Boomerang catching the ball, he delightedly says, Interception! Now it's 1st and 10 for us! And then we see what's presumably the Eastern Division All-Stars sprinting down towards our trio of villains, with one of them at the front saying, Hey! Fancied out bad guys! Tackle them! And the next panel is amazing. It's definitely going on the socials. Dialogue free. We see Captains Cold, Boomerang and Stingaree standing, very relaxed, as a whole bunch of American footballers rush towards them, and we are continued on the third page following. As the players rush towards the trio of villains, Captain Cold says, Try it, fellas, but we've got protection from our linemen. And with his gun, he has conjured up, 5 ice statues of crouching American footballers. And obviously the real players are going at such speed that they run straight into them with cries like, Oof, and Yow! Captain Cold says with delight, Ha ha! Let them wear themselves out. Then we'll get what we came after. He then uses his gun to conjure up some chairs made of ice for him and Boomerang and Stingaree to sit in, saying as he does so, Might as well relax while we're waiting. To which Boomerang says, Yeah, the fans are too spooked to try and stop us. But then, appearing suddenly and bursting through what we think is the wall of ice football player statues, it's Captain Comet and Black Canary. Black Canary singing. Boomerang looks around and yells, What? Captain Comet again? And Captain Cold cries, And Black Canary too. Captain Stingaree takes charge.
You two Andoese lubbers, I'll collect our booty.
Captain Comet swings down, punching out Boomerang, saying,
The players have backed off, Canary. It's all up to us.
And as Canary rushes forward, Captain Cold fires his cold gun in her direction, saying, "That'll slow you down, lady," bringing up a big wall of ice, but Dinah doesn't slow down at all. She says,
Sorry, pal. This lady knows karate.
and with a couple of karate chops, breaks down the ice and moves forward. Captain Comet's again leaping towards Captain Boomerang, who throws something towards him, saying, "Have a stun boomerang, Comet." And then we see Captain Comet again focusing so that little ripple of golden energy is radiating all about him. I'm miming it for the benefit of our YouTube viewers, as I'm sure you'd hope. As he concentrates, his arms seem to distend and grow very odd as he thinks.
Captain Boomerang's not too bright, it seems. He tried that trick in the space lab. But this time, I'll change my counterattack by mentally diverting the boomerang towards Captain Cold.
Yes, and indeed, he ducks and Boomerang swings, and with the name of a Jodie Whittaker Doctor Who episode, it collides with Captain Cold.
Kerblam!
Fantastic. Is all Cold can offer us, as we see Boomerang turn his attention to Black Canary, saying, "This calls for a double douse," and he hurls two boomerangs towards Canary, who ducks down and says,
Looks like a job for my sonic power.
and she unleashes the Sonic Canary cry once again. And the two boomerangs return to their source, knocking him out with a
Whoom!
and a,
Puck!
as Canary says.
Back at you, Boomerang.
We then cut back to Captain Stingaree, who's got a hold of one of the players and is holding his cutlass up to his throat. He likes doing that, and he says,
Hold it, heroes! I've got an hostage. Give up, or I'll deep six him.
Deep Six, of course, being a member of the G.I. Joe team. Captain Comet looks appalled. He yells,
What? Again?
and then, in a dazzling display of shifting perspectives to round out this page, he leaps up into the air behind Captain Stingaree. Flying around, he says,
Okay, Captain, I know when I'm licked. But it isn't now.
Captain Stingaree can only exclaim,
What?
and then,
Yape!
as Captain Comet lands right in front of him and then delivers a massive backhanded slap which collides with a
Quap!
which knocks Captain Stingaree off his feet and he falls to the ground beside Captain Boomerang. Captain Comet crosses to the player who Captain Stingaree had hold of and says,
Am I correct in assuming you're the team captain?
"I sure am. Why?"
It fits their methods. They've already kidnapped 2 other captains.
And Captain Stingaree, coming to his senses, says,
Aye, Captain, but you won't find the other 2 in time.
"Stingaree, don't even think about that," says Captain Cold, in the process of being apprehended by 2 police officers. "Comet can read your thoughts." And at that point, Comet leaps into the air. Canary has grabbed hold of his left wrist, so he's bearing her along, and he shouts,
Come on, Canary. I just saw the horrible trap in Stingaree's mind. A boomerang metronome with the 2 missing men strapped to its arms. Each time it ticks, the temperature drops. They'll freeze to death if we don't find them soon.
And we then cut to an astonishingly rendered shot of Captain Comet and Canary flying through the air, over the harbour, over the docks of the area of Star City. Comet flying along, pulling Canary behind him. He says,
Don't know the exact location, but they're somewhere below. Only chance is to use my mental powers to slow everything in the area, to give you a chance to search.
and we cut to the inside of the headquarters building being used by the 3 captains, and we see the giant boomerang metronome. Named as such, I suppose, because we can see boomerangs at the top of the 2 opposing arms of the metronome. Each one has a captain tied to it. There's the captain of the space station, there's the captain of the SS Sunset, and they're both swinging back and forth. But then, captain of the space station is saying, "Hey, we're slowing down."
And 12 times slowed minutes later...
Canary and Comet have arrived. Captain Comet's arm has been coloured yellow, bizarrely. And we see Canary loosening the ropes that were attaching the 2 captains to the metronome, and she's saying,
A couple more minutes and these men will be cold meat. Literally. But what was the point of this crazy caper?
and Captain Comet gets a close-up as he replies,
Who can understand the criminal mind? They kidnapped captains from land, sea and air to prove their superiority over all. It was a senseless crime, one that makes me reaffirm my vow to never rest until all the members of the Secret Society of Supervillains are back in prison.
and at this impassioned little speech, Canary looks very thoughtful, and the 2 captains look very cold and wet.
Epilogue. And in the Sinister Citadel...
Yes, we cut back to the Citadel. Funky and the Wizard are watching television. We can see a shot of Captain Comet by the looks of things. The TV voice can be heard saying,
with Captains Cold, Boomerang and Stingaree in police custody, thanks to the combined efforts of Black Canary and Captain Comet.
And the wizard says,
Well, at least we know where they are now. Some of our other members have disappeared.
and at that, a familiar figure we've not seen in quite a while walks in through the door, saying,
Talking about me, wizard?
Funky turns around and says,
Copperhead, we heard you'd broken out of jail.
and an asterisk takes us to a caption which reads,
The jailbreak took place back in Secret Society of Supervillains issue 3, or indeed a previous episode of this podcast.
Indeed. And Copperhead says by way of reply,
I had some help from a friend. A friend? Who?
and we see a dark silhouetted figure in the corner who Copperhead gestures towards, and this new arrival says, Me. Your secret society isn't a secret anymore, and I'm taking over.
Next issue, the most asked for supervillain of all. A new life for Adam Blake. A special guest heroine, plus magic, movies and mayhem. On sale during the first week of February. Well, was that cataclysmic enough for you?
It was kind of weird. I mean, I think the idea of the three captains teaming up is genius.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very, very funny.
Yeah.
I think I probably would have quite dug a couple of issues that just focused on the three of them working together.
Sure.
But I'm surprised at how easily they were sort of stopped by Canary and Comet, really.
Yeah.
Not that I wanted the baddies to win, but it was just sort of like, it seemed quite, they didn't seem to offer much of a challenge, did they?
No, not hugely. In fairness, Captain Comet is quite overpowered, as it is, depending on how he's written.
Sure.
But it is quite unusual. It's very strange. And also, his power set's very erratic. But that's neither here nor there. The captain's team up, which you're talking about, is great. Obviously, Cold and Boomerang know each other really well from the Rogues and from their previous team-ups in the Secret Society as well. But Stingaree is a complete left-field addition
Sure.
to this lineup, because for a start, he's not a Flash foe, who they would know. It's literally only there because he's another captain.
Yes.
You know, it's so bizarre,
Yeah.
but fun.
I'm trying to think of any other captains they could have got. Shit, they didn't get Captain America. Or Captain Marvel. Or Captain Marvel Jr. Then Logan could have had some lines this week as well.
There we are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because actually that might have been more interesting, actually, if Captain Comet had gone
Yeah.
to get a couple more superhero captains to help him. Yeah.
Then they'd have to recruit Captain Nazi as well to help fight against them. And
Yes, oh my goodness. Can you imagine?
I'm imagining it right now.
That's it. It should have been a crossover with Earthdeath. That's right. That's exactly what should have happened. And Captain Marvel and Captain Marvel Jr. And yeah, that would have been much better. Right? You're listening, Bob Buzakis. We fixed it for you. Yeah, it was, I mean, I quite enjoyed it. Rich Buckler at this point, I mean, obviously he did some of the art for issue 5 and you could tell there was points there where he was still doing a bit of Kirby copying.
Yeah.
And some of his layouts and his positioning and his figure work here was obviously from the Neil Adams school.
Sure.
He had a bit of a rep sometimes as a bit of a plagiarist or a homagist, shall we say, Rich Buckler, but I like to think of him as someone who could just turn his skills to what was required.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Some very unusual sort of figure placement in this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there was a couple of points where his, for want of a better way of putting it, his storytelling skills did a lot of the lifting for what was actually going on.
True. Very true. I really do like his artwork. I mean, you pointed out earlier on his rendition of Hawkman, and it's stunning.
Yeah.
I think it looks great.
It's got that thing with the mask is sort of raised off his face a little bit, so it casts a bit of shadows.
Yeah.
The only other person I can think of doing that is Don Heck in the Justice League in a few years from now.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And I think Kubert sort of does it sometimes.
Yes, very much so.
I've always liked that sort of thing, like, you know, that in the sense that he's maybe looking out from underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it reaffirms the fact that it's a mask and it's not his actual head.
Yes.
You know, some people do tend to draw it like that's his actual head.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice to have a Hawkman cameo following on from the recent issues. I quite enjoyed that.
Lovely bit of continuity indeed, yeah. And then, of course, speaking of continuity, we've got Adam Blake back, and this time wearing his 1976 clobber, including bell-bottom jeans.
Yes.
Which I found very amusing.
Yeah, we should talk about these couple of pages. These are probably the most, I want to say, up-to-date, real-worldy sort of stuff we've had in a very, very long time. I mean...
Yeah, true. Mm-hmm.
As I said, first appearance of the word pervert in the context of any of the... and probably, I'm going to stick my neck out and say, probably the last.
Might well be.
And then, let's be honest, as she said, Debbie picking up Adam Blake and everything that's heavily implied there. That's quite a change from the fun frolics at Christmas time that we had in the Freedom Fighters recently, isn't it?
Not if the Rays got his eyes and sandy, but never mind.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? This is the most implicit. This sort of thing's probably this sort of thing. You know what I mean? I'm not going to spell it out. We're a family show. It's very implicit.
This is as far as you can get with a approved by the Comics Code Authority book.
Yeah.
But certainly it just screams 1976 at you.
Yes, very much so.
All these movies that we've seen, like, you know, Taxi Driver and stuff that were made round about then, that kind of look, and yeah. And the sexual revolution is fully in evidence here.
Yes, we'll have to keep an eye open and see if this young lady returns, because Peter, in our preparation today in Van's recording, Peter and I had a very interesting conversation which required us both to do a little bit of reading ahead and getting some clarification on a couple of conflicting memories, shall we say. So yes, we'll have to see if this young lady returns, he said with an emphatic look to camera. So, drawing a veil over that, I mean, I haven't read the other Captain Stingaree stories. Does he cut about in a pirate ship in those?
It's been a long time since I've read them, I'll be perfectly honest.
I see.
But yeah, it is very of his style. I love the fact that his go-to move is basically just to grab someone and hold a cutlass to their neck and use them as a human shield. It's hilarious.
Yes, he does it every time, it seems, doesn't it?
And I love that Captain Comet called it out, saying, "What, again?"
Yeah. I was sort of surprised that there wasn't a scene where he tried to do that with Canary, prompting Green Arrow to fly in and come to her rescue. I think that might have worked a little better. But yes, on a subject which, this is, again, we give a plug to the Boxing Glove Arrow podcast and the Metro Stock podcast via our returning guest voices, Chuck Lordens and Kelly Blair. Thank you both very much for taking the time to contribute, as always.
Indeed.
It's nice that there are these small character cameos popping up every so often on Secret Society that we can send messages to people and say, do you mind reading this into your microphone for us quickly, please?
Indeed.
So thank you to everyone that's helped us out with the last couple of issues with that.
Thanks to both of you. And moving on to another terrific twosome, Funky Flashman and the Wizards.
Yes.
Now, what I find fascinating is, in some panels here, again, Funky Flashman is drawn definitely to look like Stan Lee. In some others, he doesn't quite look the same, but it's just so egregious. I can't believe when I first read this when I was a boy, I had no idea that's what they were going for. I just thought he was just this slick con man. But yeah, it's egregious. It's so blatant.
Yeah, I mean, on the first page there, panel 5 especially, it looks like Buckler's just sat there with a photograph of Stat and traced it by the looks of things.
Yeah.
And then when he's kneeling down to switch off the television, it's really obvious. And there's a couple more in upcoming issues where it's just like, it's appalling. But it's also quite funny. I mean, I wonder if there's anything on record of Stan talking about Funky Flashman. We'll have to try and find that out.
That's a good point, actually. I've never looked at that.
It's nice to see him and the Wizard chilling by the pool still.
And there's some lovely, great character moments in it, like the Wizard saying, "Allow me to magically freshen your drink."
Yes.
And of course, Funky's just there taking it because that's the kind of guy he is. He's like, "Yeah, of course you would freshen my drink, yes."
Yeah, and it's the Wizard turning on the charm.
Yeah,
And maybe indicating to the audience that he's not really convinced by all this bravado and all this funky stuff. That he's playing along, I think.
Exactly.
I think the Wizard is being very careful here.
And he can see how useful Funky could be, so he's making sure that he's...
Exactly.
It's a really interesting alliance. I must admit, I really do enjoy it.
Yeah.
And we will get a lot more of this going ahead, listeners. So, yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah, we're planning to do issue 7 next week, folks, just to keep the momentum going on the Secret Society a little bit, because these two issues flow together very well. And with that cliffhanger, we don't really want to leave it another 5 months before we come back to Secret Society.
Very, very true.
Yes. That wouldn't work at all. Going back to Canary and Green Arrow, it's fascinating that Canary is just not impressed by his refusal.
Yeah.
I like the fact that she's kind of, right, no, I'm going to help him. You're being an ass. I'm going to help him out. I believe him. People are in danger. It's quite... Always being really quite stubborn here, because he's perpetuating this doesn't want to be a nursemaid line, but he's ignoring the fact that Captain Comet has told him that these people are in danger.
Yeah, true.
So, Chuck, you're not being cast in a good light this week.
That's true. Especially considering, Captain Comet's there asking for help, and Ollie is literally standing there in his Green Arrow costume, whereas Dinah has to get changed into her Black Canary costume, which is bizarre to go away and help when Ollie's just still sitting there in full costume watching the football game.
Yeah.
At least he would if his television didn't break.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if they'd both been sat in civvies, that might have made that a little bit more, I don't know, maybe he was just He just wanted a day off. Maybe there's been some really tough Action Comics backup strips that we haven't read in the last couple of weeks.
Unless maybe he's just come back from stopping some criminals. He's literally just in the door and he's thinking, oh, I'm exhausted. I just want to chill and watch the game.
Possibly.
And that's what's happened.
I can't remember if Green Lantern and Green Arrow has been revived at this point. I know it is imminent because we're going to get to issue 100 before too long. There's a couple of other issues around there that will be touching on elements of at the same time. Maybe he's just had a hard time, but I mean, at the least, I'm just really unimpressed by him not jumping into action to help. I wonder if Captain Comet's look over his shoulder as he leaves is him maybe casting mental thoughts to make Oliver's television go kaput. I wouldn't be surprised, because he does look like he's focusing there, you know. Who can say?
Interesting. Okay.
It's an interesting issue overall. Quite a lot going on. So many things. Like, I love the space boomerang. I love the almost Poseidon adventure setup that we're getting at the start of the SS Sunset before it kind of, you know, obvious echoes of Titanic with the ice flow in front of the ship. There's quite a lot of fun stuff in this issue. It would be nice to jump to the contemporary correspondence, but...
Alas, there isn't any. The letters page in issue 9 has actually been hijacked by Funky Flashman to tell us all about his funky codes, which is basically a very basic cipher.
Yes.
But there'll be the occasional funky code dropping from issue 9 onwards.
Yeah.
And we'll try and translate it as we go along.
When we get to issue 9, of course, we'll put that text page on the socials so that you can all have a look at it. And have fun with the funky code yourselves. No, they just jumped from coverage of issue 5 to issue 7, which is infuriating, quite frankly. Especially
considering we've had the whole almost 5-issue story arc building up, and this is the first kind of almost fresh start.
Yeah.
And there's no commentary on it.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, that is an interesting thing. They've done this 5-issue epic, and the villains are all sort of scattered, and we're not really sure how much time has passed since the last issue. Obviously, it's a while since we've done them, as I keep saying. We only agreed today that it'd be a better idea to do issue 7 next week rather than kind of come back to it. So it'd be good to spend a couple of weeks with these guys before we spend a slightly extended time back with, you know, the Freedom Fighters and Wonder Woman and the Justice League over the next few weeks and months or so. Yes, well, gosh, I'm very tired. My head is thumping. Apologies, listeners, if I don't have the energy this week. Late night for ICW at the garage last night. What can I say?
My goodness. Listeners, is your head thumping after listening to us say Captain, 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 my Captain all the time? David, you did a splendid job differentiating all the captains.
God bless you, darling.
At least you will do after I've edited it.
And yes, I didn't keep saying Captain Comet and Captain Cold at the wrong points at all, ever. Stay tuned after the credits, listeners.
If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at theearth2podcast@gmail.com and make up for the fact that there's no correspondence for this issue.
Oh, yes, please do. Yes.
Yes. Also, you can follow us on social media because David will be putting up some lovely bonus material for this and, of course, every episode on Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky. We're at the Earth 2 Podcast, and Twitter, we're at podcast_Earth2. And it is, of course, the number 2 for all of our socials.
It certainly is. If you're feeling generous, listeners, please consider going to wherever it is you receive your podcasts and leaving us a positive review. Such things are good for the optics, or you could consider going to our coffee page and buying Peter the price of a beverage as he edits all of my Captain Released fluffs to bring you the seamless, smooth production that we always have, etc.
On that bombshell. I've been Peter.
I've been David. Take care, folks. We'll see you in 7 days for the Secret Society of Supervillains number 7 on
the Earth 2 Podcast. Me hearties are.
Transmatter cube activated. Return coordinates set for Earth Prime.
Captain Cold is surrounded by
Captain Comet.
Thank you. And Captain Comet, no, it's interchangeable. And Captain Comet is firing his cold gun.
No, he's not.
Just in front of the ship.
You did it again.
What?
You said it again.
Comet standing behind him says,
Cold?
You can be I know, sorry. It's not my fault, man.
I know.
There's two very similar alliterative names. It's just like in the same story. It's doom and not
4 candles.
It's Captain Cold and Black Canary.
Captain Comet.
Did it again. I know.
Sorry, pal. This lady knows karate. I went a bit Catherine Hepburn there. Hang on. Sorry, pals. How's it going, pals? Okay. Sorry, pal. This lady knows karate. Is it karate? Karate. Okay. Sorry, pal. This lady knows karate.
Wizard says in reply,
You've got me solid, Funky. As long as
it's sold.
sold. You've got me solid, Funky. Sax comes on again.
Come on, keep it clean. Come on.